Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this installation of the Sacramento Artist Corps Artists in Action series. My name is Richard Falcon, and I am sitting in for your normal host, Maria Costa, today. And I am pleased to be here with the mentor of the Mi Gente audio video group that worked with us on these wonderful art pieces that we've developed. Maria Madril Hernandez. Maria, thank you for being here with me today.
Great. Thank you for having me.
And I just want to, Maria, just give me a little time here. I want to, for those who are joining us for the first time, the Sacramento Artist Corps was a collective of 40 artists, count them, 40 artists that were engaged through this collaborative effort, a grant that came from the CARES Funding Act here recently, and that was awarded in the October timeframe. And my partner in crime, Maria Acosta from the Latino Center of Art and Culture, called me and Manuel Pickett, said, "Hey, everyone, we have an opportunity here to show how important artists are. We have an opportunity here to create something very similar to the WPA program back during the Roosevelt era, where we can put artists back to work, uplifting the community, bringing out awareness of the crises of our times." And so together we created this collective, the Sacramento Artist Corps Artists in Action, where we are talking about the crisis facing us today, this horrible pandemic, how it has impacted so many thousands and hundreds of thousands nationally, but tens of thousands here in California and in Sacramento. So, using a different medium to be able to bring awareness, safety information, and impact into the hard hit communities in Sacramento. And so, Maria, when I think when I called you on this, and I told you a little bit about what we were doing and how we were going to do it, what touched you the most that made you want to get involved? How did you see video and audio fitting in to the overall artist in action plan of bringing these messages forward?
Yeah, Richard. I would first say that I think probably the thing that stuck out the most was the effort that was put behind putting this project together by the leadership group that had submitted the request for this proposal to bring this type of opportunity for a lot of the artists that had already been struggling since the beginning of the year, when a number of things, obviously their shows canceled or opportunities and no more, meeting and gathering in places. So there were few opportunities, if any, that were being available by, I think it was maybe in October, September, October, when we spoke. But the thing that stuck out to me the most was your each one teach one model. I actually, since I do a lot of work with young people, one of the things that I like to pass on is any knowledge and experience that I have, and I know how valuable that is, and not just to videographers or filmmakers, is also other artists, and that we all, and the opportunity to collaborate. I thought that would be an amazing opportunity, and it has been, because the other 40, all the 40 artists are, we all live in Sacramento, but had never met, and we maybe know each other, maybe seen each other, maybe friends of friends on Facebook
Yeah.
and all these platforms that go like, oh, wow, you do this, and ways in which we can collaborate, but ways in which we can, pass knowledge on to one another in our experience. I thought that was a perfect opportunity. And then around, opportunity for artists to be able to use their talents and knowledge to bring awareness to community, especially, well, more specifically about COVID-19 and the impact on our communities.
And you talked a little bit about just your normal day to day that you do with youth anyway, and that was one of the things that inspired you in here. But how did it feel as an artist to bring forward this type of information especially in the time of a national crisis, when we get away from ourselves as an artist and say, how do I reach my community?
Mhm.
Because this is a national crisis. How did that feel making that,
Yeah.
or was it an adjustment? Maybe it wasn't even an adjustment for you, but tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, the kind of even in being an artist, one of the things that I think was the not a really challenging adjustment for myself, but it was because we were already looking at messaging, right? Things that are being shared out, how we're informing the community to make informed decisions. So, and how to keep people safe. At the time, it was still, there was no vaccination. It was all just, protection about, COVID and in spaces, and really looking at how we protect our families. And being that I was already working with a lot of young people, journalists, a lot of youth journalists who were already highlighting and bringing a voice to a lot of the community that was having hardships with all these other things as a result of COVID, knew the importance that media shares, right? Our ability to craft narratives that help shift people's thinking, or gather new information in order to make more informed decisions. I knew that was going to be a powerful. So the ability to be able to do that and be part of that, I thought, was something that was going to be special and really unique and different as far as I was concerned, because I'd never been part of such a type of project.
And when we started breaking this down into the various art mediums, when Maria and Manuel and I came together and we talked about the live streaming, and we talked about the iPhone photography, and we talked about the music group, and we talked about the storytelling group, and we talked about the visual arts group, and we talked about the theater arts group, we said, got to include film audio, and you kind of touched on that a little bit too. I think one of the things that's in this nation that has always propelled us forward was when we are watching something, whether it is video or,
Mhm.
now, especially in these short boxes
Yep.
and these short
Mhm.
squares that Zoom or StreamYard or social media or whatever like that. Um, how did what role has, if you could touch on that a little bit more, what role has film and audio played in guiding people in a national crisis?
Well, I think like a lot of the artists, they have a voice, and they're experiencing, because it's their experience, and so lived experience. At this point, it's
Mm.
not something that we have to go out and find. It is us. We're living it, and we're able to take those feelings, those actions, the things that are happening around us with our families, the things that we're suffering from, and channel them into our work, no matter what type of artist we are. And that, I think, that realness makes it more unique, but also makes it more special. So
Mm.
um, any content that's created, whether it's a visual, meaning a mural, or it's written, maybe a poem, but even a video, potentially has the impact, because it's people, what they're experiencing right now, and people can relate to that. When people can relate to those kind of um, shared feelings, I think it kind of rallies people together to know that, one, they're not alone. And we know a lot of folks right now are dealing with mental health and, a bunch of hardships. So the media has a way of showing people that people have another understanding more than, and you're not alone. So that we are all one, it's one community, and that we're here to take care of each other. And we have a powerful tool to use right now
Yeah.
for good, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of helping each other, again, you talked briefly, because one of the pieces that was near and dear to our hearts when Marie conceptualized and created this was the each one teach one, because
Sure.
that philosophy goes back to the slave days, when slaves who had learned to read, for example, or who had learned to write, for example, secretly and quietly would teach others so that they would upskill them to be better than what they were. And your group did that a number of times with some of the workshops you performed,
Mhm.
some of the work you did with some of, in mentoring some of the other groups in there. Tell me a little bit about how you
Yeah.
embrace that each one teach one.
Yeah, so what we did was the group kind of looked at what their strengths and their knowledge and their talents were, and they kind of developed a workshop from scratch. So for each of them, it was an experience that they had not had been put in a position to do. So we created a series of workshops that were like lighting, script writing, how to know your audience, social media, how to use social media, and then like do-it-yourself techniques, because a lot of the artists, how do you use a phone to film? You don't need to have all this expensive equipment. You have the tools right now at your hands. So those workshops were done for the other artists, and along with that, the support to them after the workshop. So there was a lot of collaboration and just sometimes just phone conversations, thinking through their process of what they like to do and being realistic about kind of looking at the time that they have or the message that they want to convey, and really who is your audience that you're creating this product for. And the theater, as you know, we had aspirations to do some filming in person, but because of the rapid changes with COVID, we had to pull back and figure out other ways in which we can still capture even what the groups want to do, and offering our guidance and support in that. So I think that was something that the group also learned how to do. So it's working in teams, right? Working as a team. Hence why we created the Mi Gente Media, our name, so to speak, because none of us had worked together. We may have known each other, but we've never worked together. And it was a good experience. And I enjoyed being able to share my techniques, but some of the filmmakers have 20 years plus more than I do. But so we shared a lot and were able to grow with one another. So I'm very thankful to have met the group, all the artists.
Well, we're thankful to have met you and your team there. You had Luis, you had Melissa, Sean Christopher, Carlos, yourself in there, and of
Daniel.
course one person, Daniel. And I left Dan to last because I want to take us to one of his pieces of work here. So, production room, if you could bring up that piece by Daniel Lorenzo, we'd greatly appreciate it.
Hola, mi gente. I'm Daniel J. Lorenzo, and I just did a video for the Sacramento Artist Corps. Now, as you know, the COVID-19 is having another surge.
And I know you're tired of the virus, but the virus is just getting started. And it will take time to get a vaccine to all of us. And yes, we are getting a new president who is science-minded, and no doubt he will install safety measures for all of us. But that doesn't mean everyone is going to abide by them.
So how do we fight back?
Now, speaking of masks, the non-maskers, the non-believers of science, and yes, we all have them in our family. Because of them, we now have to do our risk assessment of their presence in our lives. It goes something like this.
If you have a non-masker who talks to another non-masker, that non-masker may have talked to an infected person. And of course, they're asymptomatic, so they don't know that they're carrying the virus. That transmission eventually makes its way back to you, and perhaps your family. It's important to know that COVID-19, 19 meaning 2019, is new. So doctors and scientists are still researching it. We are still finding out new stuff about this virus. But one thing we know, the virus is not political.
Nice. Yeah.
So it seems so long ago, don't it? Even though it was just like so much has changed since then. The messaging is how fast things have changed in the last 3 months.
But
right?
but the messaging itself still hasn't changed. We're still telling our people, don't go in groups.
That's right.
Wear a mask. Even with the vaccine, they're telling people, you take the vaccine, you wear a mask anyway.
You still got to wear a mask. That's right.
We're wearing a mask anyway.
Real. Yes.
And to our people, that message, don't be in large groups. You never know who you're talking to, or what they might. They don't even know what they might be transmitting or not. And so, Daniel, thank you for that video you did there. And I think if I remember correctly, there have been a number or some personal challenges from some of the people in your group related to COVID. Tell me one or two of those.
Yeah. So a number of like a lot of other people, have experienced loss, death in their families from passing from COVID. And still believers in, those three things you just mentioned, how important it was to wash your hands and wear a face mask and social distancing. And we went through that period of the holidays. And, a lot of them have continued to the challenges we have with our families in that not wanting to be together in groups and telling them, let's not gather for the holidays or let's not do certain things. But and we know what's going to happen in a couple of weeks. And then, they end up suffering losses of their immediate family members or of some of them of their elders. So they're, sometimes a lot of them like to think unnecessarily, because we're putting ourselves in places, in spaces that make it unsafe for our families. And, it definitely has had an impact on the group. We have shared just our challenges, and not just with the COVID, with passing or someone even just having COVID and being testing positive, with not knowing what could happen, right? Not knowing how your body's going to respond, also that they tested positive, but also all the other hardships, right? Like the economic hardships, potentially like the loss of unemployment, of their employment, and, not knowing how they're going to get by if this lasts any longer, right? What's that going to look like for me, right? What kind of work am I going to be able to do? So all those things are very, on weighs heavy on a lot of people's minds. So it's not just our group. I'm sure everybody's, as well as our communities.
Yeah,
Right?
indeed it does. Indeed it does. And I mean, one of the things I had seen recently, as a result of the work that you and the other mentors and artists have done in here, is Governor Newsom has looked at the possibility of funding a statewide creative corps to continue bringing health messages to Californians about what's going on, because the one thing, and I want to go back to Daniel's video briefly too, because he says something at the end that is so true, yet so unfortunate in the fact that even though it's true, still is that the virus is not political, and it's not. And it's got to stop becoming a political rhetoric about the virus and get into the facts and the science. And he talks about that. We have another clip. One of your other artists, Melissa Franco, when I saw some of the creativeness she put into that, I would like to get that forward. So let's bring that forward, producers.
2020, COVID-19 cases continue to climb throughout the United States, especially among the Latino community. According to the CDC, Latinos are most likely to become hospitalized from the virus compared to all other races. Both Latinos and the Black community are 2.8 times as likely to die from COVID-19 compared to white people. Latinos currently make up for 57% of positive cases in California and about 48% of deaths by the virus. Another group that has been severely impacted by COVID-19 is Latinx artists. After speaking with local artists and frontline workers from Sacramento, California, it was apparent that these marginalized communities have gone through major shifts.
Since I am an art student, I've been very accustomed to creating art on my campus. And the pandemic basically shut down everything. So I had to basically do a quick transition and get used to working at home and bringing all my stuff here. I got like a simultaneous load of like getting my hours cut, transitioning from school to home, both online and just, making art. And then, the things that the pandemic has brought, fear for your health, fear for your family's health, especially, in a Latino household, we're all on Medi-Cal, so, and I had lost my Medi-Cal for a couple of months. So that was like a whole other thing on top of everything.
Because of COVID, like 40% of the company got let go of. And I happened to be, one of them. The beginning of the year, I had just become a newly published author of my first book. So I had started promoting my book. And then when we got into January and February, I was planning on doing a local book tour. And then sure enough, COVID happened and that had to be postponed indefinitely.
But it was already a struggle to find work for a lot of Latino artists. And then to be hit with everything going on and making those opportunities even less. And especially when, someone, theaters like, I would argue that Latino community theaters don't have the kind of funding to maybe put on digital productions. Not everyone, it's kind of, thought that everyone will have a laptop, but that's not the case. That's not always the case that someone just has a laptop. These are expensive devices. And I think that's something you also see when you push into homeschooling, doing school from home. I think Latino community, again, there's this inclination or there's this instinct that's like, oh, you should have a laptop. Oh, you should have good Wi-Fi. Oh, you should have yada, yada. But all these things aren't as normalized as a lot of people would like to think. And so that's why I think this pandemic has really hit these marginalized communities even harder. It's usually the people in these marginalized communities who are working retail jobs, who are the essential workers, we've called them. And they're out there every day putting themselves at risk, and then anyone they come home to at risk as well.
I've been working as an EMT for almost a year now. So I started working before the pandemic started, but recently it's just been it's normal to have multiple COVID positive patients a day or patients that have the symptoms. Just seeing how, the physicians and nurses are putting in 12-hour shifts and working with COVID positive patients or patients that are severely being impacted by it. It's really sad, but it also makes me happy to see that a lot of the healthcare workers are putting in, their heart and soul to help these patients.
I have not hugged my mom in 9 months, and it honestly sucks. And I mean, but the only reason I don't hug her is for her health. She's a type 2 diabetic. She's 55. I just don't want to risk it. What if I'm asymptomatic and I just give it to her and, it's just not worth it. She'll keep her mask off around me and I'm like, put your mask on. I don't live with you, it's not safe. And she'll be like, ay, mija, nada pasa. And Dios nos cuida y todo eso. And I'm just like, Mom, I appreciate the sentiment, but it's a very real concern of mine.
Please continue to support local Latinx artists and practice social distancing to keep yourself and those around you safe.
Yeah. Dios nos cuida. Oh man, how many times have I heard that from family members? We hold on to our faith so much that all is going to be okay, but faith without action, and that's the action. The action is people like you, Maria, and the other artists coming out, putting together these messages of the actions that people have to take beyond the faith that it's going to be okay. But we got to stay hopeful.
Yes.
That
Yes.
vaccine's coming.
Yeah, got to keep hopeful.
But we just have to keep moving it forward. We're running a little short on time, but tell me, looking at both of these videos and things like that, can you take about a minute and tell us about some of the challenges in filming that you guys ran across?
So as you know, we adhere to the safety protocol at the time, and also all the artists were able to do get a filming certificate, safety training. So, and I believe that some of the other artists as well, I think Barbara as well took the safety course, but safety, so that way we make sure that we're meeting the state requirements. So that did pose a lot of challenges in how we were going to put videos together. And as you know, with Melissa's video, is as people were comfortable, and if it was that you had to do it via Zoom and or on, whether you're using a computer or on your phone, ways that you can still capture people and their stories, and being understanding about that, and that we're limited right now. We can't have in-person interviews in a studio, and just to mention about the not having that studio space in order to bring people in for personal interviews or go out to a site to do an interview, and then also capturing B-roll at sometimes because the movement wasn't there. Is we're telling people, about being careful and being in different spaces. We have to adhere to that too. So it became is how do I then create the messaging, and what tools do I have to do that? And we're very fortunate that a lot of the filmmakers, artists have a lot of their own equipment, or we share equipment, that we could work together and share equipment. But everything was based on how people feel, what was best for them. And if it was that you had to do everything from your home, then they make it work.
And they did that, and all the groups did. And for those of you watching us, the latinocenter.org is the page to go through. Again, the latinocenter.org. Take a look at the SAC Artist Corps. Link onto that site there to see the works of the Mi Gente, of the Corona Chords. You saw them earlier. We had the Ruben Revelis and the streaming group and some of the pieces that they were doing, the storytelling group and the poems that they have done in there, the eye photography group, working there with Brown Issues to bring some of those forward. And again, like I said at the top of this, the Mi Gente audio group too. And so again, latinocenter.org, Artist Corps. Go there, find your works in there, and we're not done yet. We've still got things to do. I know, you mentioned Melissa, and I know Melissa's helping my theater group with the piece that we're doing. We're trying to be COVID safe in this filming, and we're going to talk about that at the theater interview that we're going to have on February 9th. So Thursday, this coming Thursday, a reminder, we've got the visual arts group coming up this coming Thursday at 7:00. Again, right here. Tuesday, February 9th, the theater group, which, we should going to have all my theater artists talking there. But, Maria, one last piece that I want to ask you about is the documentary, because this is a unique piece in here. Tell me what you think Sean Christopher has in mind for that.
Yeah, so as a way of capturing the artist core, right? So we're really good at telling stories, but a lot of times we're not behind the camera to capture the stories that are, or the people that are creating the stories. So the documentary that Sean Christopher is working on is capturing all the artists and all the artists' work and being able to tell this story of the project you created. So SAC Artist Core project. So that way, it's a way for him to bring all the elements together as one, to highlight, highlight, depending on how long this documentary is, but to highlight the activities and able to have interviews with the different mentors and potentially different artists and get their insight as well as to how this impacted them personally, but also how and what this meant to them in this time, but also how what they've created is helping others, right? And the potential that has. And really, I think that kind of for the SAC Artist Core group was being able to have something at the end to show all the work, because we've done, I'm in 5 other groups, being able to capture all of that. And that's what he's attempting to do and what that looks like. So, and that we've had extensions because of COVID, because we're trying to be safe, like you still working on your theater. So we're okay with being flexible and putting it out. And that's what he's working on. So I'm excited to see what that ends up looking like.
You and me both. Thank you. Before we get ready to sign off, Maria, do you have any final thoughts or words you want to share with the folks that might be watching?
I say keep a lookout and support those local artists, because I know that this isn't the end for the rest of the group, for the whole group. And hopefully, what I'm hoping is that the Latino Center, that this becomes something that is past COVID. It's just not just COVID, that it continues on in the years to come, because I think it could be a valuable project and a service to the community.
Exactly. Well, let's hope that Newsom's idea for the Creative Corps statewide follows what we've done and what we've started here so successfully. Maria, thank you to your group for the work they've done. Luis, Daniel, Carlos, Chris, Sean, Carlos. Oh, I know I'm missing. I got Daniel, Mel. Thank you, Melissa. Daniel, Melissa, Luis, Carlos, Sean. Yourself.
You work with everybody. You got everybody's. I don't know how you remember everybody. I mean, you've been a great intermediary with the group, so people don't understand the layers and what it took to put this together. That in a short amount of time. It's and so the being able to work through and we're all come from different backgrounds, has been a challenge, but with opportunities too. So,
Well, it's been a pleasure. It has been
yeah.
a pleasure. But again, thank you for being here. LatinoCenter.org, SAC Artist Corps, Visual Arts on Thursday, 7 o'clock, right here. Theater Arts, Tuesday, February 9, 7 p.m., right here. Thank you, Maria Costa, for inviting me to fill in for you today. It's been a great pleasure, Maria, talking to you. And I want to thank our producers, Ruben Reveles and Nicolas Colon, for being here with us and doing this together.
Yes.
So thank you all very
Thank
much.
you. Yes, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. You all have a good night now.
Have a good evening.